ready?
Got open man. DJ Moore. End zone. Touchdown. Touchdown Bears.
I am Jeff Joniak.
Blitz is on. Down he goes. Oscar.
What was it like playing for Coach Ditka?
I don't want to answer any questions like that.
Pressure coming. He's in big trouble. Down he goes. Montez Sweat.
And etc.
Now, Bears Etc. brought to you by Geico, with the voices of the Bears, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer.
Well, closing out a game in the NFL requires a lot, if we're being honest. It takes good fortune, of course, strategy, execution, and belief. With Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak, episode 112 of the Bears Etc. podcast, brought to you by Geico. Good to be with you. Tom, learning how to win is hard. It's hard.
Yeah, learning how to win is hard. Winning is hard. The NFL is hard. If that wasn't the case, then everybody else would be applying for this job, and that's just not the case. And you have changes on your football team throughout the course of the season that you have to be able to adjust to. But as miserable as I am after the end result of that game, there's a lot of positive things that I'm really looking forward to putting in motion next week against the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm not sitting here today as miserable as I have been in a lot of Green Bay Bear games.
But they did block the kick, and three guys jumping in the air and leaning on the long snapper, and now we can talk about what Flus can't. We'll listen to Flus here in a few moments. They're sending the tape in to get reviewed, but it is what it is. I heard Teddy Bruschi, which I brought up with Coach. You'll hear that. Many others have come out and said, why is this not a penalty? I mean, it's a penalty, Tom.
I know it is. I mean, it's evident on film. I don't understand why the officials decide not to make calls that have ramifications in the outcome of the game at the most important times in the game. And it's just kind of silly. But you know what's even sillier to me is sending in the tape, because that just leads to frustration, because they're going to go and they're going to look at the tape, and then you're going to get a nicely handwritten, typed email, letter, whatever, saying, oh, yeah, this should have been called. And there's nothing is going to change in the results. It's not like you're going to bring everybody back on the field, reline them up in the field goal position with a 5-yard gain or whatever the case is. And it just reminds me of a couple weeks ago when they called Javon Dexter Sr. for launching. I just, I think you might have used the word consistency.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for out of the officials.
Because the first snap and the first second of the game is equally as important to making it right as the last snap in the end of the game. So this idea you don't make those calls at end of games, whether it be pass interference or that particular, no, that's not how it works.
No,
it's not. It shouldn't work that way. Nonetheless. Tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Let's break down that snap, though, from your perspective, because you've been on that unit. In your career, the idea of getting as lower as you possibly can, because the defenders are doing that to try and create that pile where they can lean off of and put their hands up in the air. What's the technique there?
The technique, and Ditka used to make fun of me all the time for it, because on extra point and field goal protection, as you interlock legs, you almost have to get in a 3-point stance that you're as low as a frog. And because you have to be able to uncoil into force, because you're always going to have multiple people, especially on the inside, attacking you. So that means that you got to be powerful, strong, low, win the leverage game. If you are up high in your stance and you lose leverage at impact, there's a good chance that the ball can be blocked. So you may look silly in your stance, but it's all about making sure that you instantly win leverage.
So take me to this, though. Why did he make fun of you? Did he think you look funny on tape?
Yes, because when we used to look at the extra point field goals in tape, because we always started with special teams and that carried over to offense and defense. And he used to say, look at yourself here. You look like a frog. And I go, I know, but I've never given up a field goal block or an extra point block, so that's what you're going to get out of me in that situation.
I would say thank you, Coach. I do look like a frog is how I do it.
Well, the whole thing that I got was Jay Hilgenberg, the snapper back then. So when the ball is snapped, you interlock legs with the person next to you. And Jay used to just emphasize and reemphasize, don't touch my leg. if you're going to interlock behind me. Don't touch me. Because if he did get pushed at all when you used to be able to attack the head of the center, that means that he would go back over end, and just because you have no re-gripping with your feet. And so it was just, I was more worried about touching him than I was how I looked in the stance.
Well, that being said, I have so much faith in Cairo Santos. He's been so good over the course of his time with the Bears since 2020, and he's been booting a lot of 50-yarders. So all the analysis that now is coming out about how he kicks the ball allegedly and the low trajectory, whatever. Now that's convenient for that moment to describe all that, but I think he's an outstanding kicker, and they have a lot of faith in him. Tom, I can't believe that after 7 snaps, the starting offensive line had to get somebody else out there, and it was unfortunate. Bates got a concussion or in concussion protocol, so in comes Jay Curran, and he comes in at left guard. I know he played almost 700 snaps at right tackle in his career, but I don't know how much guard he's played, and I thought the offensive line did a really good job yesterday, and I think with the benefit of Caleb getting rid of the ball quicker as well helped that unit. You break it down. You've broken it down. What did you see?
I think the offensive line capitalized on an efficiency in the way they called the plays. They didn't make sure they didn't give these guys unrealistic amount of protection time that Caleb was trying to identify a receiver. They said, okay, we're going to get the ball out of Caleb's hands immediately, so the pass protection can be more aggressive and it can be less time consuming. Then if you see an ejection opportunity within that pocket or the design of the protection, you take off, but sensibly get down instead of taking any abuse at the end of your scrambles. And then the design of the specificness of the speed of the play. Then the way DeAndre Swift was hitting the play to those outside edge plays. Everything helped the offensive line play a faster game themselves. And when you don't have these lingering unexpected lengths of time that you have to hold the protection, it benefits their style of play, especially when you have a tackle playing guard. And one of the things I know we'll hear in the Flus interview with you, the more makeable third downs. And I think that was a key point of emphasis when you're going to call the plays. Make sure that you have success on first and second down so you're in third in reality. And now you can bring multiple guys at the line of scrimmage. They can be picked up. Roschon, DeAndre Swift are good, reliable blockers in the backfield. So the combination of the offensive line, the changes they had, and the new play calling with the immediacy of the play calling, I think it benefited everybody.
Have a new or gently used coat laying around? Well, head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive. Help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. All right, let's get the status at Hallis from Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. All right, thanks, Matt, once again. As Tom and I were discussing, and with you in post-game, and the more we dwelled on it and watched tape, but so many positives. What looked best in your mind? What looked best to Matt Eberflus?
The obvious is the offense, and they took major strides in 1 week, and my hat's off to Thomas Brown and the offensive staff and the players. They took ownership, took accountability of where they were, and had found solutions to get better. And one of those solutions is getting the ball to our skill, in space, creating space for those skill players in the offensive play call, in the scheme. And you could clearly see that during the course of that game. And we just have to do that in more creative ways as we get going, here on to Minnesota. But you look at, the ability to, DJ Moore, 7 for 7 on his targets and receptions, 62 yards. Same thing, Rome got, 6 receptions, 65 yards. Keenan, had 4 for 41. Cole, 3 for 42, so – and then we got, got a screen pass, a couple of passes off to Swift too. So I think it's really good. And again, the offensive staff did a really nice job there.
How did it help the offensive line, the quickening of the process? Because he got rid of the ball, according to multiple stats that services, you guys probably have your own, but his quickest time of release, getting rid of the football this season.
Yeah. And it's really good, the rhythm and the timing of it. Even I said it in the presser earlier, it's that getting the play call in and getting the operation there and the energy and how we're snapping to the, to the line of scrimmage and the ball faking and carrying out the ball fakes and all the little details there, were improved. And it's something that we emphasize, going back to square one, but also being able to get our guys in space.
And the last drive, you get sacked on the first two. A lot of quarterbacks, they're going to turtle. It's over. Like, this is not looking good. What does he do? He showed what he is, what he's going to be. Some terrific acrobat, Houdini type stuff, avoiding a sack, getting rid of the ball, the Rome play. I mean, the Keenan Allen play, a lot of good stuff there, right? That you can really focus on moving forward to close out games.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it was 42 yards, I believe, to get us into that position, and the first two sacks, obviously, you don't want to take those, and we can clean those things up in terms of protection and getting the ball out. But the play to Rome on the scramble drill there, scrambling to his right,
terrific,
and then Rome really being friendly to him, in that soft zone area there was really good. And then the fade ball, the back shoulder fade there versus man coverage was excellent to Rome. What a throw, what a catch. That's great to see those two do that. Those two guys that were drafted together. And then the very last one was a max. It was a max pressure, and we checked it to protection and did a great job of adjusting the protection to that, and then delivering the ball on time out on that option out route to Keenan.
Yeah, and these aren't small things; these are big things. Those two plays alone are big things, right?
Yeah,
big things.
It's big growth, and it's really being on the same page, right, and being in tune with what's going on the football field. And I really believe it slowed down for him, and you could see that, and you could see him operate.
Another thing too, about situational football, which you're always working on, always preaching about, always working on, especially third down. So third down yards going into the game, near the bottom of the league, they're just like 3.3 yards per play. And yesterday, you doubled that, 7.6 yards per play on third down. A really big jump on third down. What do you signify as a reason for that improvement?
We made a really big emphasis on the third downs, and kind of the inverse of what you're talking about. We talked about let's get ourselves into 6 or less, and we were a lot of shorter distances there, which is good. That means you're running the ball well, your passing game's efficient on first and second down, and then you're getting yourself into situations that aren't as longer, and we did that. And again, we obviously you stated the yards that we got, and we converted on a lot of those.
Yeah, 7 of 9 on third or 6 or less on third down.
Yeah,
so that was big. And then the ability by that offensive line on these crack sweeps, crack toss sweep. I mean, Braxton looked fantastic. Turns into a touchdown. Is that one of your go-to plays?
Yeah, it's one of the first things we put in. It's probably day 2 or 3 install, I think. But again, we go direct first, and then we go outside after that. So it's important that you get those seal blocks on the outside, and those are all done by receiver, tight end type guys. Cole and Keenan and Rome and DJ. Those are all guys that we put in those positions, and they did a really good job of doing that. And then you have guys from the inside coming outside to kick out, and that's where you saw Braxton out there doing that. And a couple other guys on the perimeter. And it's also evident on the perimeter screens as well, and you saw that too.
DJ playing almost like Debo with the ball in his hands. Thick, his explosion, all the things that make him a great receiver, especially on some of those sideline routes when they think you got him and you don't. That plays well when the ball's in his hands, no matter how you get it to him, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a really good yard after catch guy. He's got great contact balance, and the sooner you can get the ball in his hands is better. But he also runs deep routes too, and he's exciting that way. So we're excited about just keep on developing that chemistry between the receivers and the quarterbacks. I know that you're starting to see some of that as we go, and those guys spent extra time together last week, pre-practice, post-practice, in the meetings. And I think it's going to pay some dividends.
I said the same exact thing last night on Bears Game Night Live. It's going to happen. Like, to me, it's the last frontier yet. They're almost there on these deep shots. Yes, like you said, a few have hit. But when those hit, what's that going to do for the offense in general and defenses and how they defend the Bears? Because that would change a lot of things about pressures and all that.
Yeah, it really will. So
stretch it out.
We got to keep working that, stretching all the parts of the field in our passing game. Finding that open space if it's deep, or short. We need to keep doing that and be creative when we do it.
All right, let's talk defense. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, defensively, we wanted to stop the run. I thought we did a better job of that. We weren't perfect in that regard, but I thought we did a better job in terms of stopping the runner. I know that he had some scrambles in there, and really, to me, the biggest thing is the pass rush. We really got to get that going. I know it's been a couple weeks since we've got it going in the right direction, but we got to really do a good job of squeezing the pocket and and condensing that so there's nowhere to run or get out of the pocket and then throw deep. And that's what happened on a couple of those deep passes. So we just got to be more coordinated with our pass rush.
With Montez, I was asked last night also, is he playing hurt? And I would say, yeah, everybody is right now, a little banged up, right?
Yeah, everybody's banged up. It's that time of the year, and we're working in here, but we'll get the guys healthy, ready to go for this week versus Minnesota.
I like what you had to say earlier on Monday at Hallis Hall when you were discussing your weekly news conference, and you looked the guys in the eye, and they looked you in the eye at the team meeting on Monday morning. And you just felt a positive vibe from that. Can you go deeper into that or to what you were referring to? Maybe expand your thought on that.
Yeah, I mean, when you're going through adversity, your mental toughness is tested and your resolve is tested, and you have to look each other in the eye, look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm going to get this done and be determined, and we're going to do it together. And that, to me, is the starting point. And these guys have came to work every single week. I know we've had a couple disappointing losses, last plays of the game type of thing. And, again, we just got to keep diving in to how we can get better and how we can improve as a football team and keep playing together the right way. And then, we'll like the result at the end.
There's all sorts of components to get a win, obviously, or things that have to happen to get a win. But the biggest is belief. That's, to me, is belief. Belief that you're going to, march down the field like Caleb did, found a way. So do you feel the belief is there on this team but still learning how to finish and learning how to win that's the great unknown, right?
Yeah, and there's some great examples of that. Just in the first half, how we intercepted the pass, and they drove it the length of the field. And then they was being able to just exhaust that whole first with a touchdown, and take the wind out of that and take all the time out. And then in the fourth quarter, we do a really good job, of stopping them. We dig it out of there. We decide to take a delay and then punt and pin. They have that explosive pass. They score within, I think it was a minute 18, right? We stopped a 2-point conversion. Tremaine did a nice job of making the adjustment he needed to at the line of scrimmage on that particular play and made a nice stop. And then, the offense, does their thing, with obviously the adversity to start, but also, converting on the third 19, 4th and 3, and then getting us in position to win the game. So there's evidence right there that we can get this thing done, and we just got to keep finishing the right way with detail.
I know you can't talk about it in detail. I know you sent it into the league, but the rule is the rule. And I heard Teddy Bruschi on ESPN saying, hey, officials, you just can't pick and choose when to apply the rule. And so long snapper got buried in there. That's me saying it. You're not saying that, but it was enough to warrant to send the tape in. So in terms of consistency, we all seek that, right, in making calls.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's the end of the game.
Right. It doesn't matter. We got to do a good job with that. And, again, we'll turn it in and see what they say. But, again, that's what we saw.
Vikings, 8-2. I call them maybe the surprise team in the league just based on the quarterback situation, and Sam Darnold has resurrected his career in a big way. That's one. They have a lot of weaponry, obviously. We know them well. What are your thoughts quickly on the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, obviously playing well, playing winning football. They had some close games. Their defense creates a lot of problems, in terms of their front and their coverages, their pressure package, and they have the ability to change it up and mix that thing, those things up. Coach Flores does a really good job there. And their offense has got, like you said, a lot of weapons. They got, outside weapons, inside weapons. They do a really good job of mixing it up. And the offense is a similar offense that we've faced a couple times this year. But again, they got some good wrinkles. But it'll be a big challenge for our football team.
It's going to be shell game, right?
Yes, absolutely.
On that defense, because you don't know what's coming. That's going to be interesting. Good luck this week in the prep.
You got it. Thanks.
Tom, I ended on the Minnesota thing. We can pick up the baton there, but he also, like you just said, prior to that playing that interview, a lot of great things offensively with Thomas Brown. You could tell Coach he lit up when he started talking about Thomas Brown. So a lot of praise for what Thomas did. Thomas is no nonsense. We keep hearing that. I don't know him very well. I've had a couple of conversations with him, but I just know that there's a different style to his process and his approach than what we've had. So I think it's an excellent decision and a time to move forward with it, and let's see what else he's got up his sleeve.
Well, I was super encouraged because hearing him at the podium last week, you kind of get a different presence, a different voice, and a different way he goes about answering questions. But then I wanted to see if that transferred to the football field, and it really did. And I was super encouraged by that, and I was surprised because I like the enthusiasm of a guy that holds everybody accountable for what's expected of them, whether you're a quarterback or a tackle, a tight end or a wide receiver. And I think that's encouraging because when you talk about each of these guys being able to look each other in the eyes in the locker room because they're living up to the expectations the new offensive play caller coordinator is requiring from them. So I'm excited to see it in the Minnesota game, but I was super encouraged watching the transfer from podium to field.
Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, right here at home, driving access toward healthier communities through it all. So let's talk about that Minnesota thing quick. We have still more to talk about the game, but I ended with the shell game, and off mic, hey, what did you say? Shell game. Looks like they're bringing 8. They're bringing 4. Looks like they're bringing 5. They're actually still bringing 4. So you got to dig through that, and I can't wait to hear your analysis over the course of the week on how to prepare for that. And that'll be on our Thursday podcast. Because you're an expert at this, how to prepare for a defense that you just have no idea when they're coming or how many they're bringing, but you know they're going to because they're the highest blitz rate team in the NFL.
Yeah, but, you just have to understand your responsibility very specifically according to the protection called as number 1. Number 2, you have to look at landmarks. Okay, you got defensive linemen that are in a stance up against the line of scrimmage. You're always responsible for all of those guys. Now look at that second level. Is there a linebacker within the heels of a defensive lineman? You're also responsible for him. If there's linebackers that are coming back from a distance, then that's a lot of time responsibility of the uncovered lineman and the running back. So this is not something that these guys are going to say, oh my God, take a timeout after play 1 because we're not prepared for this. No. Just understand what you're hearing in the huddle and transfer that to the line of scrimmage. And then, Caleb, you got to be inconsistent with your snap count because the best thing you can do is you get those tells from the second level blitzers and they go, oh, God, this guy's coming and I know it. I can tell. And so all these things that are the responsibility of each and every blocker, every play, it is doable.
17 total catches for DJ, Rome, and Keenan. They had more third down conversions than they did the previous 3 weeks combined, 8-6. I look at that as positive, an arrow in the right direction, how they were deployed. You know how I like that word. And especially like DJ, just get the ball in his hand somehow. Keenan made some great, terrific catches. Rome is he's a guy that's always open because he's tall, he's crafty, he's bendable, the body moves around. He's excellent on those back shoulder throws. Outstanding. And he, I don't know that we've talked about Rome enough.
Right? You took the thought right out of my head, and I was thinking about that in regards to Bears Game Day Live and some of the topics, but I went in a different direction, but I was thinking of that same thing.
Right, he's quietly putting something together here, and he's definitely got chemistry with that quarterback, no question about it. Matt talked about the pass rush, obviously, in great depth. They need more. I mean, that's the answer there. What are you seeing from that group? Because just a few weeks ago, you were quite encouraged by the rotation. Now, obviously, Billings is out of that mix now. Montez dealing with some things. But what in your opinion, has slowed them down a little bit? Is it the offenses they're playing, how they're being blocked? I mean, how they're – I don't know. You tell me.
So they don't have a super concern for an inside pass rusher. You don't have an Aaron Donald. You don't have a J.J. Watt. You don't have a guy that you have to dedicate two interior offensive linemen to each and every time he lines up on the inside. And then that opens one-on-one opportunities for the outside rushers that you have. And, you know, when you look at the Bears, when you look at Jacob Green, you look at Darrell Taylor, you look at DeMarcus Walker, you look at Montez Sweat, you look at Daniel Hardy. They have a selection of outside rushers that can get to the passer. But the constant search for a reason that you have a dominance from the outside pass rusher is because you have interior concern. So when you look at the development of Giovanni, you look at the development of Zach Pickens, you think of Coward, and you think of these other guys, you need to have some interior concern, because now what I'm doing is, okay, I don't have to double team this 3 technique or this nose guard. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go immediately double teaming the best outside pass rusher they have. And a lot of times you can make that call when you get to the line of scrimmage, or, you know, because of their analytical breakdown, where Montez lines up the most on third and whatever length they're talking about. So to me, it's always going to be about searching for that interior dominator, and that's going to open up exterior opportunities. But I still wish that Daniel Hardy and Darrell Taylor and guys would get fresh reps and continue using them in the rotation to make sure that everybody's rushing from the outside is winning. Because Jacob Martin, you know, he was instance away from getting a sack in the game, or at least becoming disruptive to the quarterback. So I like what I see out of him. He's only been around now for a couple weeks, but I still think you need to include him in the rotation.
They did get 3 pressures from Javon Dexter, 3 for Montez Sweat. PNC is our sponsor. We're brought to you by PNC, official bank of the Bears. All right, let's get some perspective from the players at the podium on Monday. It was Braxton Jones, always very delightful at the podium, very respectful, and he some good insight, self-reflection as well. But it started with that big play, the big block he threw on the toss to DeAndre Swift.
To me, it is, yeah. I mean, that type of feeling of just, springing with one of those blocks, springing him free to allow him to just make a play on the DB there and then go into the end zone. It feels great for me, but it's just, as an O-lineman, that's kind of what we live for, is seeing our skill guys succeed in space, and that's kind of, how I find my excitement, obviously, and other things too as well. But yeah, it's amazing to see, and that is my touchdown.
you live for that, to let the skill guys do what they do, but it's got to be pretty satisfying too in itself.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it is super satisfying. Obviously, it's a DB, but it's still a shot to make DeAndre in open space and give him time to get a touchdown there. So yeah, I mean, it's execution of a play, and then when it comes to life is the most exciting thing for me. Obviously, I feel pretty good in open space and making space blocks like that. I feel like that's one of my strengths. So being able to do that is something I think I can do. So when it does happen, I'm not surprised or anything like that, but it is fun when a big block like that is made, and then into a touchdown is even better. And you've seen Swift do it in that Commanders game as well too. So just spring the guys free just brings great gratitude towards me.
We as an offense, as you mentioned, to be in a game and line situation, 3rd and 19, and you guys get out of it and get into field goal range. What do you guys take from that?
Yeah, I mean, I really give that obviously in those last few plays, kudos to holding up in some type of protection for the O-line, obviously, and then I mean, hats off to 1A. He did his thing in there, got out of the pocket and made an unbelievable throw. Great job by Rome, finding the pocket there and making a catch and just keeping us alive. Obviously, in those situations, that they're going to be coming in terms of pass rush, and that's how they just want to get home. So it's a great job of him, being mobile in the pocket and just getting out there and making a play. And I think that's just what he's good at, and I'm just excited to see more of that. And even on that fourth down as well, another great play by those two, a great connection, and just to keep the drive alive and give us a shot.
Braxton, the screen game was more effective yesterday, especially when it involved DJ. Why was that? What do you think worked?
Yeah, I just think the details of the screen game, being able to obviously get some of your linemen and playmakers out in space, and then obviously when you put the ball in DJ's hand, something cool is going to happen. Something's going to happen. So just being on the details, I think this week and having a little bit more juice, I feel like led to better success in all types of the run game, pass game, all of it being a big correlation to us just having more juice and being better in practice.
Does it help having condensed formations too for the offensive lineman to kind of get out there a little bit quicker?
I see it in that situation of kind of going to the boundaries and give us an opportunity to get out there. There's less space too. But in terms of condensed formations, you still got to execute at the end of the day and try and get your job done. I think it's just kudos to all 11 players, trying to get their job done and being better in particular situations, and that's all that is.
In what ways do you feel like Thomas Brown provided a spark for you guys over the last week?
Yeah, just early in the week he came in, told us, we got to be on our details. It starts with us. It starts with the energy. It starts with, Wednesday practice, Thursday practice, and into Friday, and then continuing that through Saturday and letting it loose on Sunday. And that's kind of what he started with. And for me, myself, that's what I did. I just, coming back off injury, just trying to be able to give the juice where I could, being on my details, being as good as I could. And I think every player, all 11, took that serious. And with, that being with how he started, Thomas gave that to us and was just like, let's just be on, great attitude and great effort. Like we can control what we can control and go out and execute what he calls. And I think that's just what we did with better juice and energy. And it led to a better outcome.
Right. So let's break down his play because he also got banged up in that game, and he stuck it out and played the rest of the day. He did not leave the lineup, which is something that has been happening routinely, unfortunately, on the offensive line. So I give him a lot of credit for gutting it out, whatever was ailing him. Obviously, he missed a game because of an injury. So he gutted things out and threw some big blocks.
That's the one thing about Braxton is – I almost think that Braxton could play guard because he's got the athleticism to pull, to trap, to wham, to those outside pulling plays that they have from the tackle position. And he's also has the ability, the bendability to meet pad to pad on a defensive back. And that's not an easy job because no matter what you're facing as an offensive lineman that's running forward, that defensive back that's in the back pedal is still a better athlete than you. And it's no insult to Braxton Jones. That's just a comment about every single offensive lineman and defensive back in the history of the NFL. But you got to be super encouraged the way he led with the physical approach to that defensive back. And I think that's why the play ended up as successfully as it was.
All right, and then Kevin Byard on the back end, really playing a lot in the box, obviously with no Jaquan Brisker, so Elijah Hicks also in that, but they're swapping those spots. But Byard had a big hit in this game and some other big plays as well. Let's listen in.
You lose by 1 point, you lose by 20 points. Every loss feels the same. Especially when you have some good positive moments within there, but just losing sucks regardless. It never feels good coming on a Monday, watching the film, making corrections after a loss. So, we just have to continue to try to keep coming back to work. That's the only thing I know how to do is keep working and trying to find a way because I think that obviously watching the offense and Caleb making some strides, we can get this thing turned around if we continue to just keep getting better.
Obviously, one of the big moments yesterday was the fourth down stop that you guys had. TJ ends up with the tackle. But what was that sequence like for you guys to be able to get off the field in a huge moment?
Yeah, our red zone defense has been really good this year. We let them down there a few too many times this past weekend. I think we let them down 5 times. They scored 3. So we got to be better there for sure. we all know, man, this group, this team is resilient. We're going to fight. We're going to defend every single blade of grass. As long as we continue to make them snap the ball, we're going to keep defending. So we made some big plays down in the red zone that really kind of kept us in the game a little bit. So, yeah, that was a big play, within the game.
Montez sounded pretty defeated after yesterday's loss, just answering some questions. And do you get a sense that there are guys in the locker room that have that sense after the fourth straight loss?
Nah, I mean, I think that, when, you're asking guys questions right after, another loss, division opponent, you're going to feel defeated. You know what I'm saying? We were defeated. You know what I mean? We lost. So, yeah, it's definitely emotions tied into it. We're all trying to find answers and trying to find a way to get a win. And when you battle the way we battled on Sunday and you don't come out with a victory, it's tough. You know what I mean? But I was just talking to Tez in the locker room. He's not defeated. I think he's more motivated to try to figure out ways to make impact plays. Same here. You know what I'm saying? I think we're all trying to do more and, really do more and say less, honestly.
Kevin, you mentioned Caleb a couple minutes ago. What are these fourth quarter moments that he rises up and mean to the team as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just, when you get into these adverse moments as a quarterback, he's pretty much shown who he is. And he's a gamer, he's a baller. And that was very good to see him in those big moments, obviously going down 30-19 where, most people probably thought the game was over at that point and throw some strikes out there to get us in range to kick that field goal was big time for him. And I was just happy to see that. And I told him at the end of the game how much I was proud of him of, showing up big in that moment.
It's an obvious, these losses, especially two in a span of a few weeks on the last play of the game, they do more than sting. They cause you a lot of pain. And it can really ruin a season when you get right down to it. But he says that's not happening. There's a lot of football left to be played, and we take it as a growth lesson.
Yeah, listen, I love Kevin Byard's maturity. I like his voice of reason inside the locker room. We've had a great experience to sit and do one of our Thursday night radio shows with him a couple weeks ago, and you have a chance to sit there and have conversation with a guy that gives you well thought out answers. One thing about Kevin Byard, though, I think when you miss a player like Jaquan Brisker and how you use the word deployable, and you have number 6,
Kyler Gordon.
Yeah, sorry. You have Kyler Gordon, and now you have Kevin Byard. You have two guys that are equally as deployable. And one thing about Kevin Byard, he's willing to get physical. And you saw that on a couple of hits in the game. And so I like the creativity of the Bears defensive backfield coach when, if we don't have Brisker and his way that we can deploy him, let's do the same thing with Kevin Byard, and let's do the same thing with Kyler Gordon. So you still have back-end creativity on this defense.
Time for our Geico brings you more football stat of the day. Tom, I looked it up. I wanted to see how backs have done against the Bears defense in the pass-catching mode because Josh Jacobs is a good pass catcher. He did a little bit of damage against the Bears, but not what I anticipated. The Bears did a good job overall, but I didn't realize this, but last season, the Bears allowed an NFL high 1,003 yards in catches and receptions to the running backs. That was by far the most in the NFL. They caught 107 of 129 and 7 touchdowns. This year, they've only allowed 293 yards. So that's obviously, season's still got 7 weeks to go, but that's a big, big difference. No touchdowns and just 43 of 51. Is there any reason in your mind for this?
Yes. So we talk about Jaquan Brisker. We talk about Kyler Gordon. We talk about when Montez Sweat came aboard. Now you have to leave backs in the backfield because of the deployable assets they have from the defensive backfield that are blitzers and rushers, and you have a help that you have to concentrate on Montez Sweat. So now you got a chipper instead of just a free release. So I remember talking about that last year and how it was plaguing the Bears defensively is how many passes the running backs were catching. And then when you have a shift in maneuverable defensive pieces Now the running back has to stay in. He's got a little bit longer before he can release into that type of route. So you're just not getting them out of the offensive backfield very much because they have responsibilities from linebacker to defensive backs to Montez.
The reason I bring it up is what's coming. So Aaron Jones, we know he's an excellent receiver. He could play wide receiver. He's like a Matt Forte, in my opinion. So
I agree.
That's one. Then you got to deal with Christian McCaffrey. That's two. Then you got to go deal with, Detroit. You got to deal with both of those guys as pass catchers. And, so I'm just bracing for that because clearly they're doing it better, and that's a great illustration by you. Good news, Chicago. United Airlines is getting brand new planes with all the bells and whistles like Bluetooth connectivity, screens at every seat and room for everyone's roller bag. United, proud to fly the Chicago Bears, and you too. Before we take a look at the Vikings, the Devin Hester experience yesterday, it was exhilarating for me. I know it had to be the same way for you with Steve McMichael going up there. And we were, I think, both up there for Jimbo Covert when he was given his Hall of Fame ring. I made this point on the air because a lot of people have texted me from inside the building and friends otherwise that were at the game, and they're like, man, that was a cool moment. I go, not from your perspective. From my perspective, it blew my mind because I'm staring up at a full house and the crowd was reacting to things I said about Devin. And it was really something. I understand how you guys would roll through that tunnel then and be greeted by a full house in your own building and how that must have jacked you guys up. Like, there's no way. I was so hyper for the third quarter then, calling the game. It just, to me, because I've always said, whether it be an entertainer on stage, a comedian or a musician or any athlete that gets to play in front of a full house, there can't be anything like it.
Well, actually, it left me with a little bit of anxiety because I was more worried about you not getting back to the booth before they kicked off in the second half, and I didn't want to have to do anything to do with play-by-play.
You could handle it.
When you showed back up, and then I was able to relax, but I always had admired Devin Hester, the post-Bear player, because you like to see what some of these guys grow into and develop into, like Roosevelt Colvin when we had him on the podcast. What a incredible guy after the success he's had on the football field. And I feel the same for Devin Hester. So I'm glad that the fans got to be rewarded with him getting his Hall of Fame ring, standing up there in his Hall of Fame jacket with his teammates in a fan base that is so appreciative of accomplishments of the Bears.
Yep, it sure is. And I wish, and I know they didn't because they were in the locker room, I wish the players would see what happens when you do great things in Chicago. The fans are going to love you forever.
Yeah.
And they don't get that opportunity to see it live. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree 100%. It's just like, someone was asking me about excitement of seeing Tom Brady. And, listen, Tom Brady was at the game, but I was sitting with Charles Tillman on the sideline during our TV show. And Charles said, hey, give me a second. I want to go out and say hi to Tom Brady. So whether it's 10 years after the fact or whatever the case is, you are excited about seeing that person. And so the fans there getting a chance, a lot of them may be seeing Devin Hester in person for the first time. I think it's a cool response that they gave him, and there's a lot of respect that Devin was witness to.
All right, let's talk Vikings. They've only given up 33 points in the last 3 games after giving up 31 at Detroit and 30 at the Rams. Anything you can connect dots on aside from who they're playing? They did play Tennessee yesterday. They put plenty of pressure on Will Levis, sacked him 5 times, pressured him 7 times on top of that. So this Van Ginkel, who he was drafted by that coach in Miami, and so certainly knows how to use him. He's up to 8 sacks now, doing a lot of great. They're going to set a team record for sacks in a season the way they're going. So, what are you bracing for?
I'm going to put the onus on Minnesota. I'm not going to come in there with a conservative game plan where I have 9 blockers and I'm sending out 2 receivers and trying to overprotect. I'm going to make them overcover. I'm going to take guys that I think are a little bit beyond their age responsibilities of football and say, okay, Can you cover Keenan? Can you cover Rome? Can you cover Cole? Can you cover, every one of these guys, DJ? And so I'm going to go out there because it's a home game and I'm in command of the cadence and I can use a little bit of deception at the line of scrimmage and try to get you guys out of position and take advantage of it. So if anybody is out there watching the replays of the big plays, you take the 2 screens to DJ Moore. You look at the ball fake by Caleb to DeAndre Swift and go look at the personnel out of position from the Green Bay Packers. The first one, there was 4 guys out of position. The second one, there's 2 guys chasing the wrong way in an instant of hesitation by both linebackers. Jeff, you got to be able to use those things. You got to make sure that those guys are thinking after the ball is snapped, create that hesitation, and then get the easy completion. I'm not looking for 50-yard completions. I'm looking for 3rd and 4. That's my goal in this game.
People are throwing on them despite that. I mean, they have given up the 5th most receiving yards in the NFL this season. So there are going to be plays there to be made. There's going to be plays there to be made. 1,844 yards with a very high completion percentage and 11 touchdowns given up in the passing game. So, yeah. How about Sam Darnold? I know this is a great story, and I know you're happy for him because it hasn't worked out. Don't want to be happy about him on Sunday.
Nope.
As you like to say, I'm a Bears fan. But what's his secret right now? Kevin O'Connell?
I do think that. I think the coaches asked him to ignore his past. Come in here as a NFL caliber quarterback, learn our system, and we will give you the encouragement and the corrections that you need in order to play the position. And then there was no pressure on him when he got here because they drafted J.J. McCarthy. All the quarterback pressure was on McCarthy. And so Sam Darnold had the luxury of going back. I'm probably going to be in a backup position. I have the luxury of time to learn this system. And then if I need to go in the game, I'll go in the game. And then all of a sudden J.J. McCarthy gets hurt. It's Sam Darnold's game. And he never panicked. And so like I said, I'm happy for him as a human, because if you ever go back and listen to some of the criticism that he's faced, either walking in and out of the locker room or through tunnels, it's kind of discouraging to see the way some people have treated him. I'm not for him on Sunday, but in terms of the human being, I'm for him.
This reminds me a little bit of Geno Smith, how he got his career turned around here in the last couple of years by Seattle. It reminds me way back when Jim Plunkett became the quarterback of the Raiders. He goes and wins a Super Bowl. Never count out a quarterback. That's what I'm learning.
Drafted by New England, Heisman Trophy, gets booted out of there. Gets, Jim Plunkett, both of his mom and dad were blind.
Yes. You've brought that up before too.
Incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. Hey,
it's
Bears
like
fan.
we used to have a offensive tackle, Cesar Arente, who was a great kid out of Oklahoma. Both of his mom and dad were deaf, and so he used a lot of sign language and just kind of lived life on a different tone than the rest of us.
Bears fans, Steinhoffels is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. This Bears season, Steinhoffels is partnering with Special Spaces Illinois to create dream bedrooms for children battling cancer. For every false start caused by the Bears defense during a home game, Steinhoffels donates $1,000 to Special Spaces Illinois. Shop in-store and online at steinhoffels.com. Tom, any further thoughts before we wrap things up? Going to have to protect the football and protect the quarterback on Sunday. That's going to be job one.
Don't show up with your tail between your legs. Yep. You come out there and you say, listen, this is our house. We belong in this football field. We're improving at this stage of the season, and go out there and have the same intentions in the game plan that you put together for these guys that you've always envisioned that you had that responsibility, and go out there and perform.
Here's a crazy stat to wrap us up. Courtesy Doug Coletti, our statistician and director of research, second team since 1939 to lose 4 straight games with 1 total turnover in those games. The Bears have just 1 turnover in those 4 games. The last team to do it prior to the Bears since 1939, the 2008 Kansas City Chiefs. So that's some rare stuff when you're turnover-free. In fact, the Bears have the longest streak of turnover-free games by a Bears team since 1979, 3 in a row.
Coletti
So-
needs a job.
Yes, he does.
He's got to get a job. He's got way too much time to look at numbers.
Coletti's on the case. Special
Yes, he
thanks to
is.
Bears head coach Matt Eberflus. For Tom Thayer, I'm Jeff Joniak. Thanks for listening, everyone. Please subscribe now on the Chicago Bears official app, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Bear down, everybody.